Hello there, in this tutorial I'm going to discuss about Windows Authentication. So Windows Authentication basically used in corporate network and the network which have installed IIS 7 and the Active Directory domain services by which the internet were able to understand about the users. Now, this Windows Authentication was formerly known as NTLM, which is also referred as Windows Anti-Challenge Response Authentication. Now, it's a secure form of authentication because the username and password flows in hashed format, and because it flows as hash format, it's hard to broke it how to get the uh, wrong access. So that's the reason it's secure enough. Now, currently in the Active Directory users and computers and the TechEngineer.tv, I have sales uh, OU. In the sales OU, will have two users, test user 1 and test user 2, and I have to install Windows authentication roles from the server, and we just hit next and install. Now, since I'm installing Windows Authentication in the domain, and in domain basically, and this Windows Authentication uh, uh, allow two authentication, or able to access two authentication, which is Kerberos and NTLM. It means it's support to authentication, Kerberos and NTLM. Now, the domain, the Active Directory domain services basically use the authentication Kerberos. So by default, when there's authentication in the IIS will supports the authentication Kerberos. Now, Active Directory with authentication Kerberos. So this particular Windows authentication will also use Kerberos. Now in the authentication, you find two options now there. One is anonymous authentication and another is Windows authentication. Anonymous authentication is enabled. Any people, any person can access the web server without any hassle. But once we allow Windows authentication, the particular uh, user of the domain will be able to access the web server. Now, this particular Windows authentication can be best suited in intranet environment, and that's the reason we are also practicing in intranet. In the domain environment, any particular user, whosoever is there in the domain, can access the web server, and whosoever not requires to, then we will not allow it. So currently we're just going to disable this anonymous authentication so that anyone can access the website. So we'll just uh, disable it, and I just enable the Windows authentication. In advanced settings, we have more settings, but we just do not require anything. We're just restoring our server. Just tries to browse, and we now requires to give our username and password. Now remember, uh, any domain user can access the web page. Now they have to give a username and password. It's not like before. They would just need to give our IP address and our web page will open. This time we have to give username and password. This is what the secure form of Windows authentication works. This is what extra of Windows authentication is there. So we just need to give a username and password to allow the access to get the access of the web page. Before it was just give up IP address and just open the web page. So this is what Windows authentication is all about, and the corporate networks is best suited. And hope you learned something about Windows